The Galactic Hunter Academy sat on a massive space station called Villar 9. For 300 years, this academy had trained the best hunters from across the galaxy. Only the strongest species could enter. Only the deadliest could graduate. The Rethki came here with their 4 powerful arms and poison claws. The Gorath arrived with their heat-seeing eyes and bone-crushing strength. The Salvani brought their mind-linking abilities and teeth sharp enough to cut through metal. These were the apex predators of the universe. These were the hunters. Then the humans made contact with the galaxy, and one of them wanted to join the academy. Instructor Kalis stood in his office, reading the new student list on his data screen. He was a Gorath, standing nearly 3 meters tall with gray-scarred skin that showed decades of battle experience. His yellow eyes moved down the list of names until they stopped on one. Entry: Park Do-hyun, human, male, age 24 cycles. Representing the Earth Collective, Kalis felt his stomach turn cold. The door opened behind him. Instructor Myra walked in, her silver fur catching the light. She was a Sylvani, smaller than Kalis, but no less dangerous. Her kind hunted in packs, using telepathy to coordinate their attacks. "You have seen the list," Myra said. It was not a question. "This is a mistake," Kalis growled. His deep voice echoed off the muddled walls. "Humans have no claws. No fangs, no venom, no armor. They are soft, weak. The entrance committee must have made an error." Myra shook her head slowly. There was no error. The committee passed him with a unanimous vote. Impossible. I thought so too. So I reviewed his preliminary assessment myself. Myra paused, and Kalis noticed something strange in her silver eyes. It looked almost like fear. The human unsettled them, Kalis, all of them. Even old Commander Thresh, who has killed more Class 9 predators than anyone alive. Kalis turned back to his screen. He pulled up everything the Galactic database had on humans. He read for a long time while Myra waited in silence. Humans were classified as persistence predators. This meant they did not kill with speed or strength. Instead, they followed their prey. They walked after it for hours, days. They did not stop. They did not rest. They simply kept coming until their target collapsed from exhaustion and fear. Then they walked up to the helpless creature and killed it however they wished. Kalis had hunted many dangerous beasts in his long career. But something about this method made his skin crawl. Their ancestors chased animals to death, he said quietly. They ran them until their hearts gave out. Primitive tactics, Myra replied. Effective tactics. Kalis closed the screen. And they have had thousands of years to make those tactics better. The human arrived that afternoon. Park Do-hyun walked through the academy gates looking completely ordinary. He was average height for his species. His skin was smooth and soft, without scales or armor. When he smiled politely at the other students, his teeth were flat and blunt, designed for eating plants and cooked meat, not for tearing flesh. The other cadets watched him pass. They were all massive predators, bred and evolved for violence. A young Rethki named Vorn stepped directly into Do-hyun's path. Vorn came from a famous family. 7 of his relatives had graduated as hunter elites. He had 4 muscular arms, each ending in claws that dripped with natural poison. "You are in the wrong place, soft skin," Vorn said, looking down at the human. "This academy is for real hunters, not weak little prey animals." The other cadets laughed. A female Garth named Yura, with amber eyes and a cruel smile, pushed closer to watch. Do-hyun looked up at Vorn. The human's expression did not change. He did not seem angry or afraid or embarrassed. He simply smiled that same polite smile. "Thank you for the advice," Do-hyun said. His voice was calm and friendly. "I will keep it in mind." Then he walked around Vorn and continued toward the dormitory building. Vorn stood frozen for a moment. He had expected fear. He had expected the human to back down, to apologize, to show proper respect to a superior predator. The calm acceptance confused him more than any challenge could have. "Strange creature," Ira muttered. "Weak creature," Vorn corrected. But his voice held less certainty than before. That night, Callus sat alone in his quarters. He had spent hours reading more about Earth and its dominant species. What he found disturbed him deeply. Humans had started as one of the weakest animals on their planet. They had no natural weapons. Their young were helpless for years after birth. They could not run as fast as the predators that hunted them. They could not climb as well as the apes they descended from. They could not swim as well as the fish. They could not fly at all. By every logical measure, they should have gone extinct millions of years ago. Instead, they had conquered their entire world. They had hunted every other predator to near extinction. They had bent nature itself to serve their needs. They had left their planet and reached for the stars. And they had done all of this without claws, without fangs, without venom. How? Callus read about their history. He read about their wars. He read about the things they had done to each other and to every other species they encountered. And slowly, a terrible understanding began to form in his mind. Humans were not weak because they lacked natural weapons. Humans had made themselves weak because they no longer needed natural weapons. Everything that made other species dangerous, humans had learned to create with their own hands. Claws? They had made swords and knives. Venom? They had made poisons and chemicals. Armor? They had made shields and walls and entire fortresses. They had looked at every advantage other predators possessed and said, "We can build that. We can build it better." Callus closed his screen and stared at the dark ceiling of his room. Tomorrow, Park Do-hyun would begin his training alongside the deadliest young hunters in the galaxy. Everyone expected the human to fail. Everyone expected him to wash out within the first week, sent home in embarrassment or carried home in pieces. But Callus was no longer certain of anything. He had spent his whole life studying predators. He knew how they thought, how they hunted, how they killed. But this human was something different, something he did not fully understand. And that, more than anything else, frightened him. In the dormitory across the station, Park Do-hyun lay in his small bed and stared at the same stars Callus was watching. His face wore no expression at all. His breathing was slow and steady. He was thinking about tomorrow. He was thinking about the cadets who had laughed at him. He was thinking about Vorn and his poison claws and his famous family. And somewhere deep in his chest, in the place where his ancestors had first learned to keep chasing prey long after other predators gave up, something old and patient began to wake up. The hunt was about to begin. The first month at the academy was hard for Park Do-hyun. Every day brought new tests. Every test brought new failure. In the combat training room, the cadets practiced fighting against each other. Vorn moved like water, his forearms striking from every direction at once. His poison claws left glowing scratches on the training walls. When he fought Do-hyun, the match lasted less than 10 seconds. The human could not block forearms with only 2. He could not match the Rethke's speed. He could not survive the Rethke's strength. Do-hyun hit the ground hard. The other cadets laughed. In the strength tests, the Gorath cadets lifted weights that would have crushed a human flat. Ira picked up a massive metal block and threw it across the room like it was made of paper. When Do-hyun stepped up to the testing platform, his score was the lowest in the entire class. More laughter. More mockery. In the reflex examinations, machines shot small projectiles at the cadets from random directions. The Sylvani students dodged them easily, their minds working together to predict each attack. Do-hyun got hit 17 times in his first attempt. His body was covered in small bruises by the end. The other cadets stopped seeing him as a competitor. They started seeing him as a joke. After one particularly bad sparring session, Yura cornered Do-yoon in the hallway. She was nearly twice his size. Her amber eyes glowed with cruel amusement. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked. "Every day you lose. Every day you embarrass yourself. Do you enjoy being weak?" Do-hyun wiped blood from his split lip. He had taken a hard hit to the face during training, but his eyes were calm. His voice was steady. "I'm learning," he said simply. "Learning what?" "How to lose." "Learning you." Yura's smile faded slightly. Something in the way the human said those words made her uncomfortable. But before she could respond, Do-yoon walked away. "The practical exam will kill him," Yura muttered to herself. "The hunting grounds will eat him alive." But a small part of her wondered why that thought did not bring her as much joy as it should have. The theoretical examination came at the end of the first month. Unlike the physical tests, this one measured the cadets' minds. It tested their ability to plan, to think, to create strategies for hunting dangerous creatures. Instructor Kalis stood at the front of the examination hall. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed an image of a nightmare. It was a scorn beast, one of the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy. The creature stood 4 meters tall, with 6 legs, armored skin, and jaws that could bite through starship metal. "This is your scenario," Kalis announced. His deep voice filled the silent room. "A scorn beast has escaped into an urban environment. Civilian population of 50,000. Your mission is to capture or neutralize the creature. You have 12 hours. Explain your strategy." One by one, the cadets gave their answers. Vorn went first. His plan was direct and aggressive. Gather a team of strong fighters. Track the beast to its location. Attack with overwhelming force. Use superior combat skills to subdue it. The other cadets offered similar strategies. More fighters. Bigger weapons. Faster attacks. They all felt like predators. They all planned to win through strength and speed. Then it was Do-hyun's turn. The human stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned to watch him. Most of the cadets were smiling. They expected another failure. Another embarrassment. Another reason to laugh at the weak little human. Do-hyun walked toward the holographic display. He studied the scorn beast for a long moment. Then he turned to face Instructor Kalis. "I have a question about the mission parameters," Do-hyun said. "Ask. Do you want it alive or in pieces?" The room went completely silent. Kalis felt his yellow eyes narrow. "Explain your question." Do-hyun turned back to the hologram. When he spoke again, his voice was different. The politeness was gone. The warmth was gone. What remained was cold and sharp and calculating. "The scorn beast is a powerful creature," Do-hyun said. "It has armor. It has strength. It has speed. In a direct fight, it would kill most hunters. This is how it has survived for millions of years." He began walking around the holographic city, pointing at different sections. "But it has weaknesses. Its armor is heavy. This means it generates a lot of body heat when it moves. And it cannot control that heat very well. If the temperature around it gets too high, it will start to cook itself from the inside." Do-hyun pointed to the city's climate control center. "I would seal sectors 7 through 12. Lock all the doors and windows. Then I would raise the temperature by 15 degrees. Not enough to hurt the civilians, but enough to make the scorn beast very uncomfortable." He pointed to a tall building overlooking the sealed area. "Then I would wait here with a chemical sprayer loaded with metabolic accelerant. This drug makes the body burn energy faster, much faster. When the beast enters the hot zone, I spray it. Now it is generating even more heat. Now it cannot cool down at all." Do-hyun's voice was flat, emotionless. like he was describing the weather. The creature will try to escape. It will run. It will fight. It will smash through walls. Every action will make it hotter. Every movement will bring it closer to death. Within 2 hours, maybe 3, its organs will begin to shut down. It will collapse. And then I will walk over and finish it. The silence in the room was absolute. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. That is if you want it in pieces, Do-hyun continued. If you want it alive, the strategy is simpler. He looked directly at Vorn. I let it chase me. Vorn blinked. What? Humans can run for entire days without stopping. Our ancestors used to hunt animals this way. We did not need to be faster. We just needed to keep moving. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion. Then we would walk up and do whatever we wanted to it. Do-hyun smiled. But there was nothing warm in that smile anymore. A scorn beast can run very fast, but not for very long. I would lead it through the city for 6 hours, maybe 7. I would stay just far enough ahead to keep it chasing, just close enough to keep it angry. And when it finally fell down, too tired to move, too exhausted to fight, I would put the restraints on it myself. He turned back to Instructor Callus. So I ask again, do you want it alive or in pieces? Because I can give you either one. Nobody laughed. The scoring results came out that evening. Park Do-hyun had received the highest theoretical examination score in the Academy's 300-year history. Vorn stared at the results screen for a long time. His 4 hands were shaking. Not with anger, with something else. Something he had never felt before when looking at Prey.Fear. In her private office. Instructor Mira read the same results with her silver eyes wide. He does not think like a predator, she whispered to herself. And then, more quietly, he thinks like something worse. News of Do-hyun's examination score spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. By morning, everyone had heard the story. The weak little human. The impossible question. The terrifying answers. The social order of the cadet class began to change. Before, the other students had treated Do-hyun like a joke. They had pushed him in the hallways. They had mocked him during training. They had waited for him to give up and go home. Now they watched him differently. Now they kept their distance. Now they whispered to each other when he passed. Did you hear what he said about the scorn beast? He wanted to cook it alive. From the inside. No, he wanted to run it to death. Just chase it until it collapsed, which is worse. Nobody had an answer. Vorn stopped challenging Do-hyun directly. The Refki still hated the human. That much was clear from his eyes. But he no longer pushed him in the corridors. He no longer made jokes about soft skin and weak bodies. Something had changed inside him. Some ancient instinct was telling him to be careful around this small, strange creature. Yura watched Do-hyun from across the training room with her amber eyes. She remembered what he had said to her in the hallway. I am learning you. At the time, she had thought it was a pathetic attempt at defiance. Now she understood what he really meant. He had been studying them, all of them, learning how they moved, how they thought, how they fought. Every loss had taught him something. Every failure had given him information. She felt like prey. She hated that feeling. Not everyone was afraid, though. Some cadets were curious. One evening, a young Refki female approached Do-hyun in the study hall. Her name was Sori. She was Vorn's cousin, but she was very different from him. Where Vorn was proud and aggressive, Sori was quiet and thoughtful. She had always preferred learning to fighting. She sat down across from Do-hyun without asking permission. Your strategy in the examination, she said. You did not think like a predator. Do-hyun looked up from his reading tablet. His expression was mild, friendly. The same face he always showed to the world. How do you mean? Predators attack. We chase. We kill. That is our nature. But you did not plan to attack the scorn beast. You planned to make it destroy itself. Story's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You thought like prey. Like something being hunted, not something doing the hunting. Is that bad? I do not know. Story was quiet for a moment. On my world, we have a saying. Fear the creature that runs when it could fight. It knows something you do not. Daham laughed. The sound was warm and genuine. For a moment, he looked like any other young person, happy and relaxed. Humans have a similar saying, he replied. If it runs, it knows the terrain better than you do. Sori felt something strange. She had expected the human to be defensive, to make excuses for his weakness. Instead, he was comfortable, confident. He knew exactly what he was and what he could do. An unlikely friendship began that day. I started training with Do-Yun in the evenings. She taught him how to defend against Rethki fighting techniques, how to read body language, how to predict attacks before they came. In exchange, Do-Hyun taught her how humans thought about combat. The lessons horrified her. Your species developed something called total war, Sori said one night, reading from a history file. When you fought enemies, you did not just attack their warriors. You destroyed their food, their water, their homes. You made it impossible for them to live, not just impossible for them to fight. Yes, Do-Yun agreed calmly. That is monstrous. That is effective. Sori stared at him. How can you say that so easily? How can your people live with such tactics? Do-Hyun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. We had to, he said. On Earth, we were never the strongest, never the fastest. Every other predator could kill us in a fair fight. So we learned to make sure the fight was never fair. We learned to win before the battle even started. We learned that mercy was a luxury we could not afford. And now? Your people is strong now. You have technology, weapons, ships, and we still fight like we are weak. Do-Hyun met her eyes. Because the day we forget that lesson is the day we become prey again. Sori did not know what to say. She looked down at her 4 clawed hands. All her life, she had been proud of her natural weapons. She had believed that strength was the key to survival, that predators ruled and prey served, but humans had no claws, no fangs, no armor, and they had conquered their entire world. Maybe she had been wrong about what made something dangerous. The weeks passed. Do-Hyun continued to fail the physical examinations. His combat score stayed at the bottom of the class. His strength test remained pathetic compared to the other species. But something had changed in how the other cadets saw those failures. Before, they had laughed at his weakness. Now they wondered what he was learning. Instructor Callus noticed the change. He watched Do-Hyun carefully during every training session. He saw how the human studied his opponents, how he analyzed their movements, how he filed away every piece of information for later use. One night, Callus submitted a classified report to the Academy Council. Recommend immediate reclassification of human tactical capabilities. The report read, current threat assessment is dangerously inadequate. This species does not think like other predators. They think like something we have never encountered before. We should be very careful how we proceed. The response came back within hours. Denied. Continue. Observation. The practical examination will provide sufficient data. Callus read the message 3 times. Then he locked himself in his quarters and did something he had not done in 40 years. He prayed to the old gods of his own world. He prayed that the council was right, but deep in his heart, in the place where his survival instincts lived, He knew they were wrong. He knew that the practical examination would not test the human dot, it would unleash him. And Callus was not sure the galaxy was ready for what would happen next. In the dormitory, Do-hyun lay in his bed and listened to the station's quiet hum. Beside him, a data tablet showed detailed information about the Academy's hunting grounds. Every terrain type, every dangerous creature, every survival challenge. He had memorized all of it. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow. But he was not sleeping. He was planning. The practical examination was coming. The other cadets thought he would fail. The instructors thought he might die. Everyone was waiting for the weak little human to finally break. They did not understand. Do-hyun had never been trying to pass. He had been trying to learn. And now, after months of watching and studying and losing, he knew everything he needed to know. About the Academy, about his classmates, about himself. The hunt was almost ready to begin, and this time, Park Do-hyun would not be the prey. The hunting grounds of Velar-9 were legendary across the galaxy. 200 square kilometers of engineered wilderness covered one entire section of the massive space station. The Academy had spent centuries filling it with the most dangerous environments and creatures in known space. Dense jungles, frozen wastelands, burning deserts, and predators that had killed more cadets than anyone wanted to count. The practical examination was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. Each cadet was assigned a target creature. They had 72 hours to track it, capture it, and bring it back alive. Those who succeeded would graduate. Those who failed would wash out of the program. Those who died would be remembered with a moment of silence at the next graduation ceremony. Do-hyun stood in the assignment hall with the other cadets. One by one, the instructors called out names and targets. Vaughn received a relatively easy assignment, a Class 4 predator that he could overpower with his 4 arms. Yura got a Class 5, challenging but manageable for someone with her strength. Sori drew a Class 6 pack hunter, difficult but suited to her analytical mind. Then Instructor Callus called Do-hyun's name. Park Do-hyun, your assigned target is a Void Stalker. The room went silent. The Void Stalker was classified as a Class 8 predator, one of the most dangerous creatures in the hunting grounds. It could turn invisible in low light. It moved without making any sound at all. Its claws carried a neurotoxin that could paralyze a Gorath in seconds. In the past decade, 3 cadets had died trying to capture one. None had succeeded. Vaughn actually looked uncomfortable. Yura's amber eyes went wide. Even Sori, who had trained with Do-hyun for months, felt her heart sink into her stomach. The human was going to die. Instructor Mira stepped forward. Her silver eyes held something that might have been concern. You can withdraw from the examination, she said quietly. There is no shame in recognizing an impossible scenario. You can try again next year with a different assignment. Do-hyun looked at her calmly. His face showed no fear, no worry, no hesitation. With respect, instructor, he replied, humans do not believe in impossible scenarios. Only scenarios that require more creativity. He picked up his minimal equipment pack and walked toward the hunting ground entrance. The doors opened before him, revealing a dark forest that seemed to swallow all light. Do-hyun stepped through without looking back. The monitoring station filled with instructors and cadets within the hour. Giant screens showed camera feeds from across the hunting grounds. Everyone wanted to watch what happened to the human. Some expected entertainment. Some expected a quick death. Some simply wanted to understand how this strange creature would face an impossible challenge. For the first 6 hours, nothing happened. Do-hyun walked through the forest slowly and carefully. He stopped often to examine the ground, the trees, the rocks. He picked up branches and studied them. He looked at claw marks on bark. He smelled the air. He listened to the silence. "He is lost," Ira said confidently. "The Void Stalker could be anywhere. He has no way to track something invisible." "He is not lost," Sori replied quietly. Her 4 eyes were fixed on the screen. "Watch his pattern. He is learning." By hour 12, Do-hyun had mapped the entire territory. He knew where the Void Stalker drank water. He knew where it slept during the day. He knew which paths it used to move through its domain. The Academy's own zoological database was less accurate than the mental model the human had built from scratch. Then, he did something that made everyone in the DAS monitoring station stop breathing. He found a small clearing in the forest. He gathered dry wood and leaves. He built a fire and lit it. Then he sat down with his back facing the darkest part of the forest and began to eat a ration bar. "What is he doing?" Callus demanded. "He is completely exposed. The creature will see him from 100 meters away." "He is being prey," Myra whispered. Understanding hit her like a physical blow. The Void Stalker is an ambush hunter. It does not attack things that might be a threat. It waits for easy targets. Helpless targets. "He is baiting it," Callus finished. With himself. The hours crawled past. Do-hyun sat by his fire, eating and resting and apparently doing nothing at all. The monitoring station grew tense with waiting. Every shadow in the forest seemed threatening. Every flicker of darkness could be the invisible predator moving closer. Hour 20. Hour 21. Hour 20-2. Then, at hour 23, it happened. The Void Stalker appeared from nowhere. One moment the forest behind Do-hyun was empty. The next moment, a nightmare was lunging toward his unprotected back. The creature was 3 meters of muscle and claws and death. Its neurotoxic talons were extended, reaching for the soft human flesh. It was fast. Faster than any cadet could react. Faster than any eye could follow. But Do-hyun did not try to react. He did not try to dodge. He did not even turn around. Instead, the fire exploded. The flames erupted into a blinding white flash. Chemical flares, hidden in the wood, ignited all at once. The light was specifically designed for one purpose: to overwhelm the Void Stalker's sensitive eyes. The creature screamed. It was a terrible sound, high and sharp and full of pain. The Void Stalker stumbled, its invisibility flickering, its claws swinging wildly at the air. And in that moment of blindness, Do-hyun moved, not away from the creature, toward it. The ground beneath the Void Stalker collapsed. A hidden pit, dug hours earlier and covered with leaves. The monster fell, tangled and confused, and a weighted net snapped shut around it. The net was made of special fibers that tightened when the creature struggled. Do-hyun was already there with the sedative injector. He had memorized the Void Stalker's anatomy. He knew exactly where to strike. The needle found the nerve cluster at the base of the creature's skull. And the neurotoxin that should have killed him was instead used against his target. The Void Stalker went limp. The entire capture had taken less than 30 seconds. Do-hyun stood over the unconscious creature. His breathing was slightly heavy. A thin cut on his arm was bleeding where a claw had caught him during the chaos. But he was alive. He was unhurt. And he had done what 3 dead cadets could not. He looked up at the nearest camera. His eyes were calm. His face showed no expression. No triumph. No relief. Just simple, patient certainty. "Do you want it alive?" he asked clearly, "or in pieces?" "Because I can do either." In the monitoring station, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Instructors who had spent their entire lives hunting the galaxy's deadliest creatures stood in shocked silence. Cadets who had mocked the weak little human now stared at the screens with something they had never expected to feel: terror. Vorn's 4 hands were trembling. His poison claws, which he had always considered his greatest weapons, suddenly seemed small and useless compared to what he had just witnessed. Yura had stopped smiling. Her amber eyes were wide and blank, like an animal that had just realized it was no longer at the top of the food chain. Sori watched her friend with a strange mixture of pride and unease. She had known Do-hyun was smart. She had known he was patient. But she had never truly understood what that meant until now. Instructor Callus finally found his voice. "Get the medical team ready," he said quietly, "and prepare the graduation ceremony. The examination does not end for another 49 hours. Another instructor pointed out. Callus shook his massive gray head. "It does not matter. None of the other cadets need to prove anything anymore. That human just showed us what real hunting looks like." He turned away from the screens. "May the gods help us all," he muttered, "because I am not sure we can help ourselves." In the hunting grounds, Park Do-hyun began the long walk back to the academy entrance. He dragged the sedated Void Stalker behind him on a makeshift stretcher. The cut on his arm had stopped bleeding. His heart rate had returned to normal. He was not thinking about the creature he had captured. He was not thinking about the examination he had just passed. He was thinking about the next challenge, the next hunt, the next problem to solve. Because that was what humans did. They never stopped. The graduation ceremony was the quietest in Academy history. 53 cadets stood in the Great Hall, wearing their new Hunter Elite uniforms. They represented the deadliest species in the known galaxy. Rethki with their poison claws, Gorath with their crushing strength, Sylvani with their telepathic coordination. All of them had trained for years. All of them had survived the hunting grounds. All of them were now certified to hunt the most dangerous creatures in existence. But none of them felt like apex predators anymore, because standing among them, wearing the same uniform, was a human. Park Do-hyun received his certification first. Instructor Callus placed the medal around his neck with hands that trembled slightly. The massive Garth, who'd killed more Class 9 predators than anyone alive, could not meet the human's eyes. "Congratulations," Callus said. His deep voice was quiet. "You have earned this." "Thank you, instructor." The other cadets filed past to receive their own medals. Warren walked stiffly, his forearms held close to his body. He gave Do-hyun a single nod, nothing more. The hatred in his eyes had been replaced by something else. Something that looked like respect or fear or both. Yura did not look at the human at all. She took her medal and left the hall immediately. Her amber eyes were haunted. She had not spoken to anyone since watching Do-hyun capture the Void Stalker. Sori was the last to receive her certification. She stopped in front of Do-hyun and studied him with her 4 eyes. "You planned everything," she said, "from the very beginning. The losses, the failures, the weakness. It was all deliberate." Da smiled. For once, the expression reached his eyes. "Not all of it," he admitted. "Some things I really did learn along the way. But yes, I knew I could not compete with you physically. So I made you underestimate me instead. A hunting tactic. The oldest one my species has. Make the prey think you are not a threat. Let it relax. Let it lower its guard. Then strike when it is not expecting you." Sori shook her head slowly. "Your people frighten me, Do-hyun." "Good," he replied gently. "That means you understand us." After the ceremony, most of the graduates left quickly. They wanted to get away from the academy, away from the hunting grounds, away from the human who had changed everything they believed about predators and prey. But Instructor Callus stayed behind. He found Do-hyun on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The human looked peaceful, content, like any other young person enjoying a quiet moment after a long journey. Callus knew better. "I need to understand," the Gorath said. stepping up beside the human. Your species has no natural weapons, no armor, no special senses. You are smaller and weaker than almost every other intelligent race in the galaxy. Yes. So how did you become this? Do-hyun was quiet for a long time. The stars reflected in his dark eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. On Earth, he began, we were not the strongest animals. We were not the fastest. Every other predator could kill us easily in a fair fight. We knew this. We lived with this knowledge every single day of our existence. He turned to face Calais. So we learned to make sure the fight was never fair. That is tactical thinking, Calais said. That is not what I saw in the hunting grounds. What you did to that Void Stalker was something else entirely. Yes, though you nodded slowly. What you saw was something we developed when tactics were not enough. When we faced creatures too fast to outrun, too strong to outfight, too numerous to outsmart, we learned to become the thing that even apex predators feared. And what is that? Do-hyun's smile faded. His face became serious. The warmth left his eyes, and something old and cold took its place. Patient, he said. When a human hunts you, it does not matter if you are faster than us. We will follow. It does not matter if you are stronger than us. We will outlast. It does not matter if you hide, if you run, if you fight back. We will adapt, learn, and return. Again, and again, and again, until you make a mistake. Calais felt cold. It was a sensation he had not experienced since facing his first Class 9 predator as a young cadet. The galaxy classifies humans as persistent predators, Do-hyun continued. That is technically correct, but it misses the point. We are not dangerous because we can run for hours without stopping. We are dangerous because we never give up. A human who decides something is prey, it is already dead. It just does not know it yet. He put his hand on Calais' shoulder. The touch was friendly, gentle, but somehow it felt like a warning and a promise at the same time. That is why when someone asks me alive or in pieces, I am not being arrogant, Do-hyun said. I am being precise. The condition of my target is a choice I make, not a limitation I face. The human walked away, leaving Calais alone with the stars. That night, the Academy Council finally approved Calais' request for human reclassification. The new official designation was simple but terrifying. Apex Adaptive Predator. Extreme threat level. Do not engage. Do not hunt. Do not give them a reason to hunt you. The message spread across the galaxy within days. Every intelligent species received a warning. Every hunter, every soldier, every leader read those words and wondered what they meant for the future, because humans were no longer just another species in the galactic community. They were something new, something that the galaxy had never seen before. A predator that could not be measured by claws or fangs or strength. A predator that won by refusing to lose. 3 months later, Park Do-hyun accepted his first professional contract. A wealthy merchant needed something tracked down. Something dangerous. Something that had already killed 4 hunting teams. Do-hyun read the briefing file carefully. He studied the target's abilities. He analyzed its territory. He planned his approach with the same patient precision he had used in the academy. Then he called his client. I understand the job, Do-hyun said. His voice was calm, professional. Before we discuss payment, I need one piece of information. What information? The merchant asked nervously. Do-hyun smiled. It was the same smile he had worn 1,000 times before. Polite, friendly, completely harmless. Do you want it alive? He asked, or in pieces? Somewhere across the galaxy, in the academy halls of Velor-9, Instructor Calais heard about the human's new career. He sat alone in his office and stared at the wall for a very long time. The galaxy had thought humans were weak. The galaxy had thought they were prey. The galaxy had laughed at their soft skin and blunt teeth and lack of natural weapons. The galaxy had been wronged, and now, for the first time in 300 years, Callus understood what it felt like to be hunted. He poured himself a drink and raised it toward the stars. "To the humans," he said quietly, "may we never give them a reason to hunt us." He drank alone, in silence, and wondered what the future would bring. But deep down, he already knew, whatever the humans wanted, that was what the future would bring, because that was what happened. When something decided to never stop hunting, eventually, it always got what it wanted, always.